God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Good day and welcome to the Heini Sass podcast. I am Heini Sass. Today we will be listening to an interview that I had with Heinrich Frans. Now, Heinrich Frans is the artist that I reviewed in episode 2 of The Vault, and I will have that in the link in the description box. So I hope that the discussion that we had is informative and it sheds light on certain things within the music industry and tells you more about the artist. So here we go. So
Yeah,
I
man,
need,
listen, I'm so
yeah.
glad you're doing this. This is very, very cool.
Hey, it's been a long time that I've had it on my mind, and
Sure.
I so you literally heard me say I'm watching YouTube. I spend a lot of time on
Yes.
YouTube, né?
Great.
And I look at what my favorite YouTubers are doing. And my favorite YouTubers
Sure.
are reviewing artists that they like. Um,
Right. So like Terrell, Grice, that sort of stuff.
hey, don't say that name and not think that you react, my good man. No, Terrell, he's one of the cats that I
Right.
I got my wife on Terrell.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
got I got
Oh, cool.
so the
Cool.
first one I actually
Yeah.
watched was Turi Kili. And Turi Kili, my
Oh,
man.
nice. Oh, man, listen. Yeah, that was
Oh,
amazing. I saw that as well. She's killer,
oh,
right?
sure,
Yeah,
guy.
she's killer.
That's not funny.
Yeah.
And then he's got me on to, and now I am I stake my what I have in my wallet, but it's a 5 rand, so I can't stake a lot. You like PJ Morton?
I do. I do. I do. So we may as well then get straight into it, right? I love PJ, absolutely love PJ Morton. But I as a singer in particular, I've always been very careful about um, not spending too much time listening to singers, and I'll tell you
Yes.
why. Now that sounds odd for somebody who is a singer, right? But my greatest fear has always been sounding. If there's one fear that I have as a singer, then it's sounding too much like somebody else, right? And
Wow.
so yeah, and so because of that fear, I just find myself. I'll if I find something that I'm attracted to from a vocal perspective,
Mm,
I'll throw my ears on it
yes.
for a while, for a minute, and then I'll kind of um, part with it, having taken what I
Eid.
feel is relevant for me
Yes.
out of that
Yes.
particular listening experience, right? So I'll check stuff out like that. I'll study it and look at it from a technical perspective. What is he doing? How is he doing what he's doing? I'll analyze that. I'll process it for myself, and then I'll drift away from it. Um, I mean, growing up on the Cape Flats, how many
Hey.
Brian McKnights we have on the Cape
Oh,
Flats,
come on
right?
now. Come on now.
Now, you know what I'm saying? And here's the crazy thing, man. Like, some of them become so good at that, at copying, that they sound almost as good as the original or better.
And
But the problem with that is, yeah, go,
I
go.
think not only Brian McKnight, but Whitney Houston as well. I think
Oh, totally,
they
totally.
because people saw the voices that inspired them, they thought they must
Yes,
sound like them. So yeah,
100%.
just to go there.
100%. And you know as well as I do that, if you look at it from an industry perspective, the industry is going to say to you, you know what, man, we already have a Brian McKnight. We already have a Stevie
Yes.
Wonder. We already had a Whitney Houston. You know, there isn't place for another.
Yeah.
And so often the danger, of course, is that you know those artists. I mean, if we just took Brian, Stevie, and Whitney on their own are so epic at what they do, and their contribution to music over a number of years has been so epic that it's almost dangerous to try and chase exactly that, because
Yeah.
what is on the other side of that? And if you were to have an honest conversation with yourself, there isn't much on the other side of that, because you kind of have spent your entire existence trying to sound like somebody else. And that somebody has already used their voice to carve out a space for themselves, So where do you go from there? I would think that, and listen, please don't get me wrong, we mentioned Whitney Houston, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I have no issue with entertainers who travel the world doing tribute shows and
Yes.
those sorts of things.
No doubt.
But can you imagine the pressure that comes with, having to at some point distance yourself from that imitation format, and now you're trying to step out on your own, and be just yourself, and people are going, actually, or you as the artist are going, I can't find a way to separate myself from that that thing that I was
Chasing.
imitating, that I was copying, or
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22. I mean, I take my hat off to people who do that. I mean, there's so many Michael Jackson tribute shows. There's a great Whitney Houston tribute show that we all know of, that we're all aware of. But I can only imagine the challenge of stepping away from that and trying to carve out your own artistic voice post that era sort of thing in your career. I would imagine that it's a challenging thing to do.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah. So Heinrich, having started and just jumped into this, because I can honestly listen to the music knowledge that you have. I can listen to that like endlessly.
Sure.
But coming back to what we actually prepared, I know you since grade 1, grade 2. Like,
that's crazy, dude. What is happening?
Oh, okay, so you can still hide it, but crazy. I cannot, my good man. It's we getting there. But Heinrich, what was the first sort of, you've always been a singer. I know you as a singer, but what was that epiphany that actually clicked in your head saying, I am going to do this full time?
Yeah. You know what? I think, in Afrikaans, they have the saying that as 'n uitgemaakte saak.
Oh, yes.
And in my situation, I think it's a lot of that. And the reason for that is that, I am from a family where there has just always been this rich heritage of music. My grandfather was involved in Christmas. Your mom would know.
Yes,
my grandfather was involved in Christmas choirs way back. A Christmas choir called Perseverance.
Yes.
To be specific. And of course, my dad took over the reins from there.
Hey, listen, you and your father did a song where he was on the piano. Wow, he still has it, man. He still has it.
He absolutely still does, man. And so, he in his younger days, and still to this day, is a student of classical music. In the context of a pianist, a choral conductor, and the like. So I was kind of always destined for this. I cannot recall, my younger years in particular, without just being nourished by music on a daily basis. My grandfather was always playing music in the house. My uncle, who is not, it's fascinating because he's not a musician, but he's very musical, and the funny thing is, I was very fortunate, man, in that I got both ends of the spectrum from people very close to me. So my father and my grandfather was that classical music influence.
Mm.
And then, my uncle was a rebel to this day. He was the jazz guy in the family. So he would be importing LPs from the States on a regular basis. So I came up on bands like Koinonia, who I'm sure you know. Artists like Joe Sample.
Come on now.
All of these incredible. So in fact, he was the one who introduced me to Take Six.
Come on.
The first Jonathan Butler LP that I heard was out of my uncle's collection.
Sure.
That introducing Jonathan Butler LP where he had that beautifully crafted afro on the front cover, and Eyes was on there, and all sorts of Seventh Avenue was on there. So that's just what I grew up around, and I'm so grateful for that, because it molded and shaped my ears, man, from a very, very early age. I mean, we joke about it in the family, today, that I was a youngin' when I was already singing and scatting along to solos that
Yes.
musicians like Abraham Labordio was playing on those Koinonia recordings.
Yes.
I was scatting along to Joe Sample solos at that age already. And I must have been, man, I don't know, I could have been, what was that, 80s? So somewhere in the region of around 5 to 10 when I started doing that, maybe younger, So the, you asked when I had that epiphany, and I just, there was no one single moment. I just always knew that music was meant to be a part of my existence.
I got you.
And I'm sure the same applies to you. I mean, you talk about me. You're a badass singer yourself, man. And a musician as well. So you know that it's just in our fiber. I can't think of another way to explain it, other than it's just in our fiber. And then, of course, from there, I started, dabbling in choirs, and so children's choirs, youth choirs, and thankfully all of the choirs I sang in were professional choirs. You actually had to audition to be in those choirs.
Yes.
And so that took me right around the country. It took me right around the world, competing on international stages. So yeah, it's, I couldn't have asked for a better journey. And again, I consider myself so fortunate to have been surrounded by really great music. Like, I can't recall ever hearing bad music in my household. It's like,
when there's musicians dictating the music, they
right? 100%.
So the next question then, so everyone knows you, or those people that know you as a singer. And I actually came about the fact that you are a manager via a good friend of ours, Mr. Kyle Shippard.
Sure.
And I saw a post, and it's my manager's working out vocals, and I'm like, no, but I know. So
that's funny.
You both are artists and a manager, and that's not something that most people think about when thinking, I want to work in music. So how did that come about, and how did that come about?
Well, I'm very glad that you asked. Look, this is a very important conversation to have, and sadly not in my opinion, not enough people are having this conversation. And the reality of the situation in 2020 is that, particularly within the context of the music industry, it really is all about diversification, and the same can be said for other industries too. You kind of just have to do 1,000,001 things these days, And so I'm fortunate in that I've always had multiple interests. You know, as much as
Okay.
I love for singing, um, and songwriting and
Hmm.
performing, I've also always had an interest in how records are made, how records are produced. You
Okay.
know, I recall those back to the early years. You know, I was, and people who know me personally, who either friends of the family or family themselves whose homes I visited, dude, I would spend hours in like rummaging through their music collection and just reading liner notes, right? So
Sure.
like I would know on any given album, even at that age, I would know who the audio engineer was. I
Okay.
would know the recording engineer was, I would know the mixing engineer was, who the mastering engineer was, who the executive producer was, etc., etc. So I've always had an interest in that. And again, I was lucky in the sense that my father had a one-man band, many years ago that I eventually joined for a good
Okay.
while and would make a little bit of pocket money as a DJ and a singer kind of thing together with him. So we would play all these corporate events,
Okay.
weddings and the like. I was super young, man. In fact, there were places that I ended up working that I probably shouldn't have been in it. But that was part and parcel of my upbringing. So because he had this one man band,
Yeah.
he had a PA system. So
Okay.
my responsibility, part of it would be obviously carrying that PA system, carting
Yes.
it around, and then setting it up and actually doing
Okay.
sound. He himself has always been an audiophile, so he's always had great
Okay.
hi-fis in the home.
Okay.
And so that also helped sort of mold and shape my. So I say all of that um, to say that every aspect of what is required within uh, the chain as far as the production of an album is concerned, from the business right
Hmm.
to the technical side, right to the actual performance,
Yes.
delivery of that album, I had an interest in, you
Okay.
know. And so I took those interests with me,
Yes.
from then right through my entire existence. And so I, over the years, developed an understanding of what an executive producer is, what he
Okay.
does or she does, how they do what they do. What is the meaning of the term executive producer? People often, for example, confuse an executive producer with a music producer. Sometimes they're the same person, sometimes they're
Yes.
two different people.
Yeah.
Sometimes an executive producer is just someone who funds something, who throws money at a project. He's different from the that
Yes.
sort of thing. And so I made it my business to. I'm to this day. I'm probably one of the most curious people you'll meet. I'm always soaking up information. I'm always reading, um, and always looking to gain new knowledge. And so
Yes.
I figured at some point, um, in fact, this was a life changer for me. I went and sat down with a businessman who is to this day is uh, a a great mentor to me,
Okay.
and a guy named Colin Daris, who you may
Hey!
know. Do you know Colin Daris?
Yes, I
Of course, you
do.
know Colin, right? Mr. Daris. So I sat down with him in his office one day, and I had the most fascinating conversation with him about me and my business. And he dropped a gem on me that day that I'll never forget. We started talking about multiple streams of income, right?
Yes.
And it was as though a bell just went off in my head. And he said, okay, so let's take a look at the music industry, right? And
Sure.
and and I know he shared this with me because at that point I was already dabbling in multiple things. I was on radio, I was writing for arts publications, for music magazines, I was performing, I was writing, I was dabbling in production, in audio, all of that, right? And he sat down and he said, okay, so let's look at what the totality of your skill set is. What is your skill set in its entirety? Dude, and I could list a gazillion things that I was doing, all of which involved music,
Yes.
thankfully, right? Um, and I then realized that bit of every skill that I had essentially represented a potential stream of income, right?
Okay.
So in other words, my understanding of the business side of things
Yes.
with regards to music industry means that I could actually help somebody build an empire, right?
Sure.
I could help steer somebody's career. I could help manage somebody's career because I'm in the same industry. I understand the industry. I am already doing, well as an independent entity myself. I may as well um, turn that into a skill and turn that into a potential stream of income, which is what I essentially did. And the amazing thing is that when I ended up at Kyle's, for example, at that point I had gone to study at an institution called SAE. And aside from his needs relating to the management side of things and booking agency side of things, he also needed somebody audio side of things, right?
Sure.
So what that essentially represented was 3 ways for me to make additional income, right?
Mm-hmm.
And needless to say, I took those three tasks very seriously. I felt I was privileged to be in a situation where here's a brother and a friend who is incredible at what he does,
Yes.
uh, who is man, Kyle is always doing great shit. There's just no other way to say it. And to have kind of fallen into becoming a part of that movement was just incredible, dude. I watch Fila Second, right?
Yes. Yes.
The like the DVD,
Yes.
and I see my name in the credits, and I damn near choke up. I mean, it's like I would never have thought that I would be in a position where I could sit and watch him conceptualize that score from start to finish, man, and also contribute towards that through my skill as an audio engineer,
Yeah.
And so that was a very long-winded way of expressing to you how I ended up
On both
essentially applying so much of my skill set within that particular environment,
Yeah. So just this is a hard detour. My first lesson on, how can I say this? My first lesson on a piano with chords was the one that Carl gave me, and that was
cool.
out of C major. It was the 145 movement that literally every pop song that has ever been made uses the 145 movement. And you taught me that on he taught it to me, and until today I still play the 145 out of C major because of what Carl gave me.
That's too cool.
That's
you guys were in the same high school, right?
We were at Settlers High, yes. We were at Settlers High together.
That's cool.
And just another thing about Kyle, I was there when he started his journey with the great late Abdullah Ibrahim, where Kyle switched from violin.
Abdullah's still alive, eh?
Oh,
Abdullah's still alive.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
not late yet.
Then I got my wires.
No worries. No worries. Yeah.
But when he started his journey, and also switched from violin to piano, and
crazy. So that was early days, right?
Yes. So I was at the time I was like, but why are you doing this? And obviously seeing the journey.
Yeah.
I see why, and the reason why, according to me, is the fact that the violin did not answer Kyle's heart.
Sure, yeah.
The piano seems to have answered that so that more people can hear and feel what he has to offer the music. So yeah, that's where
I'll
we
tell you
are.
what, man. You know the thing for me about Kyle, and he's a bit of an enigma in the sense is
Yes.
that, you know, he can pick up literally anything and you know, make music with what he's got in his hands at any
Yeah.
given time, sort of thing. He's yeah, he's incredible at what he does, and man, his trajectory in the world of film music in particular um is so just incredible, you know,
Yeah.
especially considering the fact that film music in South Africa is sadly still it's a very much a gated community, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah. I can
which is the
understand that.
politically correct way of saying what I want to say. It's still pretty much dominated by a particular um, clan, you know,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and we when I was working, you know, closely with him, we were just relentless, man, in that, you know, we felt strongly that we had something to offer in that space, and we would just knock down doors wherever we could. You know,
Okay.
we weren't interested in doing things in an underhanded sort of way,
Okay.
but we felt like we had something to offer in that space, and we wanted people to sit up and, you know, listen and pay
Take
attention kind
notice.
of.
Yeah.
And we just wouldn't stop, you know. I would sit on a daily basis and just email, you know, production companies left, right, and center and say, this is who the artist is that I'm representing, this is what he's achieved thus far. We feel like we can offer your production something unique and something
Mm.
distinctive. um, Go and have a listen to his show, you know, that sort of just daily grafting of.
Sure.
And the crazy thing is, during the time where I was very actively doing that with him, you know, eventually somebody hits you back, man, after like the
Five
thousandth email that you've sent
thousand.
out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they go, hey, we've got this production, we feel like you would be great for it. And those were the moments we would both live for. You know,
Yeah.
we have some cool stories with several expletives that I won't share on this forum. Just when we would get that email back to say that somebody's interested, and
Sure.
then, you know, we start the negotiating process, and eventually we arrive at a point where everyone agrees and we go,
Yes.
yay, you know,
Yeah.
we've landed something. So yeah, man, I think it's pretty impressive, you know, what he's achieved as a young composer, young film score composer.
Yeah.
Boy from the Cape Flats,
Yes,
man.
sir.
You know,
Yes, sir.
who's doing his thing, and you
We can be
know,
proud of it. Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to see. You know, yeah.
Talking about Kyle and what the sort of highlights were in his career. Let's bring it back to you, Heinrich.
Sure,
What are a few of the highlights? You made mention of the doors that you kicked down with Kyle
sure,
in a
sure, sure.
certain industry, but is is
Yeah,
is there anything
yeah.
else that you would like to just highlight?
Well, I mean, for me, you know what? I've been in industry for a really long time, and I feel strongly that what I set out to achieve thus far, I've achieved. You know,
Okay.
it's been a slow but steady journey. You know, which to me is better than, you know, the other way around.
Okay.
I was never and still am not interested in stardom. That's not who I
Yes.
am. I don't care about celebrity, you know.
Mm,
I don't care about anything other than the music. You know, that's
okay.
always been me. Anyone who really knows me will tell you the exact same thing. I've not ever, you know, I'm 35 years old today, and I've not ever taken on anything just for the sake of a check. And I'm fortunate to to be in that position, and I'm proud of having done that for a number of years, you know, for as long as I've been in this.
Yeah.
It has to be meaningful. It has to be meaningful. If it's not
Mm,
meaningful, I don't want to be a part of it, you know. It's the same reason you don't see me with within a lot of the circles that people may think are the circles to be in, you know. 9 times out of 10, you don't see me there, you know. And people always ask me, like, what are you doing with, like, how did you end? Like, you know, people are confused by where they see me involved and what I'm doing. But it's because I do so many things, and also because I want to only do things that I only ever want to do things that I feel I should be doing, you know,
Yes.
as opposed to anything else.
Now,
So
Heinrich,
yes, sure,
I am going to make mention, right? Because
sure,
it's something that is burning hot at the moment right now in
sure.
the Western Cape. And I'm just gonna ask, just to tie in with your the many hats that you wear.
Yes.
I just need for you to explain your involvement on that great show that is hitting the South Africa by storm right now, and
Yeah.
that is Coaches with Jonathan Rubain. If you
Yeah.
may,
So
it's only
of course,
30
I'll tell you. Listen, I'll tell you
seconds.
what. So here's the thing. I'll give you a bit of an exclusive, right?
Whoa.
So so yeah. So not many people know the story, but Quirkies with Jonathan Rubain actually started with Kyle. Did you know that?
No.
Okay, wait. So let me tell you how this
Okay,
happens,
wow,
right?
here we go.
I love this story. So I'm working very closely with Kyle at the time, right?
Okay,
And I'm in studio and I'm in office already, right?
okay.
Kyle, I kid you not, Kyle bursts through the studio door, right? Can I use expletives on the show? Can
You
I,
you
Heinrich, or
can
no?
you can you can.
Okay.
Sir.
So this was Kyle. Kyle barges through the door, throws his bag and his coat. I have a fucked idea. I said, what? He says, he was sitting in his kitchen feeding his kid, right?
Uh,
And he was feeding his kid and wanted to watch something on YouTube while he was feeding his kid,
okay.
right? So he then stumbles upon this video of his good friend Jonathan Rubain.
Yes.
It's the very famous video with Jonathan and Don Vino,
Yeah.
not Jonathan and Don Vino, with Jonathan and Neville D battling it out on stage, the
Battle.
quirky battle, right?
Okay.
So 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 Kyle looks at this and enjoys the video, of course,
Yes. Yes.
but then notices that this video, if my memory serves me, had
Yes.
like 500,000 views at the
Yes.
time,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So Kyle looks at this and he goes, but now, why isn't this
Why?
guy on TV? Right?
Oh,
Right? Bro, he conceptualized the show on his way from home to the studio that morning. Right? He sits down, he tells me what his idea is. At the time, he was already doing some work for Cake.
okay.
No, he was started on it. It was produced by Homebrew Film. Dude, like an hour or two later, one of the big guns from Homebrew is in our studio, and we are pitching this idea to this producer.
Wow.
And the rest, as they say, my bro, is history. That was how Quirkies with Jonathan Dulbane came about.
Oh, I'm
Crazy,
not
you
gonna
know?
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Um, it's the feedback that I am getting from family and friends about
Yes.
this. I mean, it's bordering on the Sewende Laan type effect, where
Yes.
where things are arranged
Yes.
around starting time and ending time. So
Sure.
we are either
Okay, you guys are serious fans, right?
we are either driving before then to get somewhere where we know this is going to be watched.
Oh
I
God.
kid you
Yeah.
not, my good man. It is
Yeah.
to that level
Yeah.
of fandom already.
Sure.
So
Right.
so
Right. Right.
it's
That's so
nice to have
funny.
heard the story behind that.
No, totally. Well, I mean, look, what I'm very pleased about is that, for a whole season, I saw the impact that the show was having on local industry, particularly the gospel music industry.
Yes.
A lot of people who are deserving of a platform, was given one. Obviously, that I mean that for cats like Jonathan himself, who's worked hard for a long time.
Yeah.
And then there are the people that he, has requested to appear as guests, who are also deserving of the platform that they were given. And then there are other
Yeah.
great musicians in his band, like Chadley Gower, and
Oh,
all
so
these
so
all these people.
Heinrich, let's
Yeah.
just pause on that one because
Sure.
one of the things
Sure.
don't know about me is that I actually play the bass,
I know you
not
play the bass. I know
not
that. Come on,
not
dude. Of course
not
I know
in,
that.
not on a level, but
Sure.
like in church and in those places. And I
Yeah.
actually, one of the guys that I'm inspired by on the bass.
Yeah.
Oh, Heinrich.
Mr. Gower.
So the first
Yeah.
times that I would have seen Charlie would have been with Heinrich Isaacs,
Isaacs. Right. Yeah.
saxophonist, and
Sure.
he was the bassist that would sometimes solo,
Sure.
write songs with, and then also be in
Sure.
the back line laying down the bass.
Sure.
And oh, mm,
Yeah.
I have bromances with a few people.
That's
Just
funny.
as a disclaimer, you are one of them, and then Chadley is
Totally,
also
bro.
one
Totally.
of the other ones. Because
I hear you, bro. I hear you. I
yeah.
hear you.
So
Yeah.
Heinrich, you've
So,
given
so just
yeah. Sorry.
to tie that up, how I was involved in the show. This was going to be your follow-up
Yes.
question, I think, as well. Is that I at the time had been doing some things, relating to audio with Kyle. At that point, we had done Fila Sekund and a few other things, and he then asked me to essentially be the mixing engineer for the music side of that show.
Mm.
Which of course I mean I jumped at the opportunity. It's always any any mixing engine well any a lot of mixing engineers, I'm one of those engineers, would always jumps at the opportunity to mix a live band.
Yeah.
And these days that's such a rarity. I mean, we live in the age of the DJ. I think that's surely that's slowly but surely changing globally as well, because bands are making a comeback,
Yeah.
which is nice.
I like
um
that. Mm.
yeah, me too. And so yeah, I was fortunate enough to to mix all of the music for the first season of that show. And what a trip, man. It was a really fun experience. Getting to work with vocals performed by people like Candace Thornton, and I think Talita Gronier, and a few others as well. So
Elvira.
Alvida, man, yeah, that was
Hey.
what a singer. What a singer, dude.
Yeah.
So Jared Jacobs came and
Come
performed
on.
one night as well. That was just incredible. I think he performed his latest single on the show, if my memory serves me.
Yes. Yes.
So to engage with music in that way for me is just a beautiful thing. I may not physically be up there making music with him, but I'm taking those performances and making them sound as best as I know how.
I think Heinrich, the next question I have down here. I don't think that the time that we have will allow for the longest list ever. So
Sure.
the question I had planned was who you worked with, and I don't think that that does you justice, because
That's crazy.
you've I know Carl Shepard, Candace Thornton,
Yeah.
Jonathan Butler. You spoke about Jonathan Butler, and you actually performed with him.
Yeah.
But you, yeah, if there's any other names, I don't think that it does you
Man, I
justice to.
mean, sure. Look, I mean, look, I don't put. Here's the thing. I don't particularly like to name drop necessarily, but
Yeah.
I've been fortunate in
Yes.
throughout my journey in that I have been able to work with several of my musical heroes.
Here we go.
I kid you not, Heinrich. I have a list. I've always had a list of, and I get a little bit choked up when I think about this, but I've always had this list of people that I wanted to work with, and
Okay.
man, I kid you not, about 80% of that list I've ticked off to date. You know, and it's a very small list of musical heroes that I have. And thankfully, somehow in my 35 years of existence, I've managed to work with almost all of them. So I mean, if I go down the list, I've shared stages with uh, Kirk Whalum, obviously Jonathan, Olita Adams, Josh Groban. It's a pretty lengthy list of really incredible people.
You're making me
Um,
emotional here, man. Help, man.
BB Winans as well. Which is like that. That was a major highlight for me. Um, I It was the BB story is that he was flown down to open up the. It was the very first. I'll never forget this. The very first IPL, Indian
Yes,
Premier
in the
League
Premier League,
T20.
yeah.
For folks who don't know what that is, and the launch event for that particular tournament that year, um, if I remember correctly, yes, it was hosted here the first time, and he was flown down to perform at the opening. I got the call to be part of that whole shebang, and on the night I was essentially a guest artist right alongside BB, sang like a verse or two with him kind of thing, and then also did some BBs for him as well, which was amazing. So what a singer,
Oh,
man. I mean, he's just an incredible singer and a beautiful soul too. So look, I've been fortunate and I'm very thankful
oh,
that I've been able to do really cool things with really cool. I'll tell you a funny, it's crazy. So, you know, there are moments throughout my career where I I found myself, this happened like twice, maybe thrice, where you are in the moment, right? And you stand still for a second and it dawns on you what is happening in that moment. So I kid you not, there was one particular stint, I think it was Jazz Fest like a few years ago.
okay.
And I stood there, um, and initially I was booked to do some things with Jonathan Butler, which was great.
Mm.
But dude, at one point in time, I looked around me on stage. I kid you not,
Oh, here we
it
go.
was Jonathan,
Yes.
right? It was Greg Fillinganes. Now I don't know if you know. Do you know who Greg
No.
Fillinganes is? Okay, dude. Any like early Michael Jackson stuff,
Okay.
right? In fact, there's an era where Greg was one of the session musicians on just
Everything.
all of the records for like in LA in particular.
I'm
Him,
gonna
Paul
search that
Jackson
name.
Jr.,
Oh no,
Abel
Paul Jackson.
Bondio.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
right.
got those
So
guys.
so Paul Jackson played a lot of those MJ sessions, and
Yes,
so did Greg
yes.
Fillinger, right?
Okay.
So on that night, it's Jonathan, Greg Fillinganes is there, Patty
Yes.
Austin is on the same stage, dude. I'm sitting there looking at this, going, this is insane, right? This is absolutely insane. So I've been fortunate in that I've had the privilege of enjoying those moments.
Oh,
Um, I I am not. Look, whatever comes next comes next. I don't
yes.
have any expectations as to. I mean, there are tons of people that it would be lovely to work with.
Mm.
but I'm just whatever happens next, happens. I mean, my new adventures into the world of academia as of next year will also open up a completely different, world to me as well. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll get to that, and I would like for you to
Sure.
explain.
Yeah.
So, Heinrich, you are, when I'm looking for a reason why I like music or I love music, you are on that playlist.
Wow.
Now I'm asking you
Sure.
five local cats and five
Yeah.
international cats that are currently in your
Sure.
playlist.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what. I have a very strange approach to listening a lot of the time,
Okay.
and so like I have a thing of like I'll listen to the same album for like a long time,
Okay.
until I've consumed all of what's there and
Okay.
or as much as I can of what is there. I don't hop around a lot. So if I can't like even and that's interesting because even though we now have all this access to all this music, right?
Yes.
I'm still that guy who downloads like a full-length album by an
Yes.
artist and I'll listen to that like for weeks. Like I kid you not, the the two there in fact there are three artists that I've been spending a lot of time listening to at the moment. I have an obsession with pianists and keyboard players, just always have.
Okay.
I guess it could be because that's what I come from. My dad's a
Yes.
pianist and a pianist. So at the moment I'm listening to a lot of Mark Fransman. I'm always listening to Mark Fransman. Anyone that really knows
Hey.
locally, right? Locally. He's got a project called Straight and Narrow,
Okay.
which I absolutely love. It was a project that he shared with a singer named, in fact, it was his project, but in the band, he had singer-songwriter Melanie Skulls
Yes.
and a host of other musicians as well. I've always been a Mark Fransman, fanatic since his days in a quartet called Tribe. Wonderful musician. So I just started listening to a lot of him again. And then the other two cats I've been listening to incessantly is Jacob Collier and Corey Henry.
Okay.
That's like, yeah, so a lot of Corey Henry, a lot of Jacob Collier. Anything I can find of theirs, I've just been consuming like there's no tomorrow. A lot of Robert Glasper as well. There's something about that music that works for me. In fact, all of the artists that I've mentioned are multifaceted in their
Okay.
approach, right? So there's always a lot of everything in the music. And if you know Corey Henry, which I'm sure you do,
Yes.
Corey comes out of the church, but then he's also a jazz nut, So what really makes me tick is when all of those worlds collide,
Okay.
So same with Jacob is Jacob knows classical music just as well as he knows jazz and inevitably in everything he does, all of that
You're
comes
going
together.
to, yeah, you're going to hear it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been listening to, man. I'm an old head. I'm always all over the show. One day I'd be listening to some Bach, and the next day I'd be listening to Miles Davis or John Coltrane or I'm just kind of all over the show. Sometimes a bit of Nirvana, depending on the mood that I'm in. It's kind of all over the show, but a Bjork as well.
Sure.
It's just so much music to check out, man. I have a friend who he always says his greatest stress in life is figuring out how he's going to listen to all the music he used to listen to. So sometimes I feel like that as well.
Yeah, I like the shuffle function on Spotify.
Yes,
I like
yes,
that shuffle. Just give me
right?
anything. I'll skip it if
Yeah,
it's not the vibe, or I'll listen to
yeah.
it if it's the vibe.
I like it.
um,
I like.
so
Yeah.
Heinrich, you made mention of of future aspirations.
Sure.
Now, the 10th of October, you have a show. But before we get to the show and what sort
Sure.
of shows you have, you sent me a WhatsApp,
Sure.
and the WhatsApp showed me a side of you that one I knew you had somewhere, but I did not know that you want to take it to the level. So you've educated young people
Yes.
in previous situations,
Yeah.
and now you want to take it further. So please
Sure.
explain that.
Sure. Well, teaching, it's funny because, music education has kind of just, no, let me rephrase that. Serving as somebody who just shares information.
Mm,
Somehow I haven't ever been able to escape that. I've always found myself in situations where, I would be asked to share the knowledge that I have. And of course, you know, I consider myself privileged to be in that position. And anyone who really knows me knows that I believe in sharing, everything that I have to share,
mm.
And so my teaching experience, started. In fact, it started in choir days. Like I would be considered sort of and you would know this from choir yourself, a leader within your
The
voice,
smaller
your
group, yeah.
respective voice part, and then you would teach voice parts
The rest of
to
the
your fellow choir
yes.
mates, and so that's kind of where some of that started, and then further than that, I went and jammed at the old G spot, like there was a
Hey, come on now.
yeah, on a Monday night where yeah, where I mean, those jam sessions were on fire. So
Oh
there were
man,
a few different iterations of the G spot. There's the one like like the one that started closest to the Celtics, and
the
then
total.
they moved
Yes, in the
to, yeah,
corner,
that's
in
it,
the
that's
corner.
it, that's it,
Yes,
that's it, right? Dude, like I was in there like from like super early age. Bless his heart, Calvin Peters, who I'm sure you know.
yes, yes.
Calvin used to Calvin used to let me in there, dude. I was like 15, 16. But all I wanted to do was listen to the music,
Yeah, and your father
So
was with you. I know
yeah,
your father would accompany as like.
no, totally. Totally, dude, totally. So I would be in there just listening to all these incredible bands. Right. So at some point the G spot moved. I'm just trying to think.
Epping,
Yes, they moved to the corner of that same complex, right?
yes.
Sort of further in. And the first jam band that I remember seeing on a Monday night at the G Spot, these guys would just slay you every Monday. It was Spencer Badu,
Ooh,
Hotep Idris Skeletta on piano, who bless his heart and rest in peace. He's not no longer
sure.
with us. Alu April,
Hey,
um,
come now,
dude,
come now.
I can't
Come.
remember who the drummer was at the time, but it was a fire jam band, right, for Monday night. And a great like balance of older musicians with younger
Younger
ones.
guys, yeah.
Yeah, so I started, jamming on the odd occasion with them. There were many Monday nights where Robbie was there, and I was able to do a couple things with Robbie as well, which is always beautiful.
Yes,
And then they moved to the corner, and that's where Camilo Lombard took over
yes,
proceedings on a Monday night with his band. So I would
yes.
jam, there quite a bit as well. Um, and then I ended up at the Cape Music Institute. I got a. It's funny. I was living in Kensington at the time.
Yes.
Um, the principal of the school at that particular time passed by where I was walking. I think I was walking toward the main road or something, and literally stopped. This is Camilo. Literally stopped his car and had a chat with me about where was I going. I explained I think I was on my way to town for work at Fine Music Radio or something. He then spoke to me about the school that he had, which at that point was in Shoko. And
Okay.
that's where the journey started for me as a vocal coach. You know, I eventually became the deputy principal of that school, served there for about 4 or 5 years, and then moved on from there to other things. And subsequently to that, from a teaching perspective, um, there's a gentleman named Martin Myers who runs the Music Exchange in Cape Town. This is one of the most incredible music conferences on the planet at this point in time, I think. And he got me involved in traveling around the Western Cape, just sharing knowledge and information that I had, as a singer, as a songwriter, from a production perspective as well. So, teaching's always just been a part of the fiber for me, sort of thing, over a number of years. And then, lo and behold, I kid you not, off the back of posting some stuff on Facebook, I get a call from some people at some folks at Wits University.
Okay.
And they asked me to deliver a masterclass for some of their senior singers
Wow.
Yeah. So initially they wanted for that to be purely for the jazz singers, the senior singers.
Okay.
But if my memory serves me, somewhere along the line, some classical singers got wind of the fact that I was doing that. Then they wanted to sit in on it as well. People were inquiring from outside of the university to participate in that masterclass as well. And then the conversation started around, after the success of that masterclass, the conversation around me formalizing some knowledge that I have, and then subsequently becoming a part of the lecturing team there. Those conversations then started, and dude, again, the rest is history. I now am literally in the process of preparing for that shift, from industry to academia.
Wow. So you said that in the message, but I'm glad that you could elaborate and also give the confirmation that this is now a reality. So I'm
100%.
I'm very happy for you, Heinrich, and
thank you, dude.
I wish you all the best, man. And I do hope that this does not mean that we will not see you as much on stage, because Heinrich, and this, I'm not being paid to do this. I am. There's no remuneration that's coming my way because I'm saying this. But you are a unique voice that I think South Africa needs to hear more of. I messaged you in that first in us coming together again on social media after Kyle showed the picture of you. I listened to a rendition of Eric Benet's song that you did.
How cool. Yeah.
And I asked you, Heinrich, why are you not out there? And you said that it's maybe not your time, or you gave a sort of the reflection on the industry.
Sure.
But personally, I do feel that you are a voice that South Africa needs to hear more of. You are soulful. Oh,
wow,
Jesus.
thank you, my brother.
And you've whatever you want as a onstage artist, you haven't reached your ceiling, but you have defined who Heinrich Frans is as a vocalist. So I do appreciate. Like I said, when I want a reason why I like music, that Eric Benet, the one with, I think it's the one with the red, where you have a glass of red wine on the table next to you.
Yeah.
That rendition of that song of Eric Benet is world class, Heinrich. And
wow, thank you, man. Thank you.
So let's hear what I know that the shows that you are wanting to do now somehow ties into your, so whatever that might be, you can explain and then also give us future dates.
Sure. So look, promoting concerts has always been, again, one of those things that I just love doing, man. I love the idea of sitting down and going, okay, so what kind of, okay, so here's a story. Some family friends of mine, beautiful people that I've known for all of my life, their daughter wanted to embark upon some travels to India with the school that she was at, right? Her grade, it was some international sort of, travel scenario um, that the school wanted these kids to have. And of course, as you know, traveling costs money.
Mm.
And I sat down with her parents and discussed with them the possibility of putting together and promoting a concert in aid of the funds that she requires
Just
to
to raise
venture
it.
abroad, you
Mm.
know. And the cool thing about that was me kind of sitting down going, okay, so like, what concert do I want to see,
Yes.
And at that point, at that point, again, back to Kyle, I was like, I haven't seen, this was literally me. I was like, I haven't seen Kyle play solo piano for a while. Like, I'm gonna put together and promote a Kyle Shepherd solo piano concert, and then I'm gonna find a young, talented female to open the concert for him on solo piano as well. And that's exactly what I did. I called up a dear friend of mine, beautiful sister named Nobushli Ashanti, um, who is just ridiculously talented pianist, composer. And I said to her, I'm putting together this Carl Shepherd solo piano concert. Would you like to open up for him? And she said absolutely yes. Of course, I mean, she is inspired, by what Carl does as well. I sat down with Carl, and he agreed, of course, which was incredible too. And Bob's your uncle. I put together a concert that went down um, beautifully
Yes.
in the most gorgeous setting, um, the Methodist Church on Green Market Square.
Oh, come on.
It was beautifully lit. Kyle played his ass off that night. Nobushle played beautifully as well. My dad performed on the night as well,
Oh,
and so did myself and Angelo. So it was a beautiful, musical affair. Um, and so promoting has always been something that I feel um, that I do well, and that I
okay.
feel um, I feel strongly that there needs to be a stronger force behind curating and piecing together unique, listening experiences for people.
Mm.
There's just not enough of that, you know. Um, and I don't feel that there's a lack of support for for things that are, let's say, non-commercial, for lack of a better term.
Mm.
I just feel like nobody's brave enough to put their balls on a block and actually, put stuff. I mean, how many great R&B singers do you know in this town? There are a few,
Oh,
right?
come on now.
You know what I'm saying?
This,
There's a good few, right?
yes,
Um, but how often do you get to see them perform live? None of them are really, dude,
brave, willing.
brave enough to put their own, hands in their pockets and say, I'm gonna take some money that I've made and that I've earned, and I'm gonna invest it in myself and a production of my own.
Mm.
You know, there are very few folks who do that,
Yeah,
for whatever reason. Um, and so I feel like if somebody doesn't do that, there's so much music that just won't get heard, man.
sure.
I mean, particularly on the creative music side of things, the non there's so much great music and so many great composers, so many great musicians that nobody gets to see the light of, that nobody gets to see and experience here,
Sure.
and I feel like if one takes, those folks who are creating this beautiful music, and you piece together something that's that will serve as a unique listening experience for people. People will pay to see it, you
Yes.
know. And so, I mean, dude, I'll be honest with you. To sell out a solo piano concert in Cape Town is no
No,
easy feat,
it's no, it's
because
not
it's
easy. It's
not like it's not the most commercial, you know, thing ever. It just isn't, you know. So it's a massive, massive risk. But I feel like if that sort of thing is done properly, you know, people will flock to come and see it. And I mean, that was you know what my experience was with that particular concert. So sorry, I'm waffling.
Oh no.
Um, then so yeah, promoting has always been a thing for me. You know, I want to give people experiences that other people are not. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's something I've done successfully for a long, you know, period of time. So you're not gonna come to a concert of mine and hear the same songs that somebody else is singing, right? If I'm gonna promote a concert, it's gonna be something most likely that you've not seen in a while or never experienced before, you know. So again, in terms of the 10th, what I'm looking to do is present a unique, you know, set of repertoire to folks who are going to come and listen. Songs that they know, but
Yes.
songs that you know, they just don't hear elsewhere. You know,
Oh,
again, it comes to this sort of copycatism thing where if one person starts doing a cover, everybody starts doing it. You know, instead of, and it's funny because it's that commercial radio mentality, right?
yes. Yes.
Um, it's like, how can I'm trying to think of an example. Um, there's a band called Steely Dan.
Yes.
I don't know if you know Steely
Yes,
Dan
I
at
do.
all,
Yes, I do.
but commercial radio plays, particularly in Cape Town. I won't mention any names of radio stations. They'll play one song of Steely's, right?
Yes.
Steely Dan has this entire like repertoire of
Repertoire.
just incredible music, man. You know, and so it's like I don't, you know, I don't subscribe to that. I mean, um, so yeah, I that's what I'm looking to. What I'm looking to, aside from myself, I want to start. You know, I want to start. You know, promoting. You know, other acts as well. So,
Okay.
for example, when's the last time you saw a Hilton Schilder solo piano concert? You know,
No.
or do you know what I mean? Or a Mark Fransman solo piano concert, or anything to that
Oh,
of that nature. You know, there's just so much creativity and so much music and that nobody's really paying much attention to, and
yeah.
it kind of it keeps me out a little bit because there's enough of an audience. It just needs to be packaged properly, and somebody just needs to be brave enough to support it and actually put
Yes.
it out there, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm the idiot who's gonna take that upon himself.
Well, Heinrich,
Only because I believe in it, you know. So
this platform here is meant, my sole aim with what I'm trying to do here is to not take any sort of accolades for myself. It is a
sure,
medium to
sure,
divert attention to
yeah,
an artist. I
yeah,
feel I agree with you in the sense that I don't feel that enough hype is being created for our
yeah,
local artists, and
yes, yes,
knowing so many artists, I
yeah,
feel that we can do more. We can put our hands together, not only for the
exactly,
international guys and the international acts
exactly,
that come our way, but for our
yeah,
local ones, the local buskers at the waterfront.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if you remember a guy that came up with us, Julian Wen. Um,
Yes, Julian
he's
Wynn.
he's well, he
Is he
was.
related to Ashley?
I don't know.
Ashley, the singer from New Birth, remember?
Wow, now you're giving me. I should actually ask him.
I don't
But
know. I wonder. Could be. Could
yeah,
be.
so he's a
Yeah.
busker in the waterfront, and
Sure.
he's unique in what he presents. But what I'm trying to
Yes.
say is that this is why I am here, is to
Yeah.
put my hands together and to also divert and lift up. Now, I'm not
For
saying you
sure.
need any lifting up. That's
No,
not
no,
what
no.
I'm saying.
I hear you, man. I hear
But
you. Yeah. I hear you.
it's to say thank you. It's to put my hands together and show
Yes.
appreciation for what you have done up till this point and the future things that you are going
Sure.
to be doing.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
You know what, Heinrich? That's the important. You know what, man? I mean, it's such a profound statement that you're making, because I think a lot of the cats don't understand is that, you know, this industry is in a lot of trouble, particularly in South Africa. I mean,
hey,
even pre-COVID-19, you know, the industry is a mess, man. And so my point is, you know, and even though it is a mess, thankfully I've done
managed to.
pretty okay, you know, for myself. But you know, it's such a mess that we may as well kind of just help one another out, man. I don't, you know, I don't have an, you know, I've that's what I've always lived for. I mean, I worked at a radio station for years, and the lengths that I went, dude, and not once would I sit there and play my own music. Like I mean, it's the tackiest thing you can do. There were guys at the station at the time who were doing that, and I just refused to do that because I'm not there in service of my music. I'm there in
Interest.
service of, you know. So I would email if I saw an independent artist in Durban or Johannesburg or wherever who was doing great stuff. I would hit him up and say, listen, send me your album so I can play it, you know, so I can playlist it and give you the airtime that you deserve for the great work that you're doing. I would do the same for independent artists abroad, you know, get him to send me stuff and I would play the stuffing out of it, you know, kind of thing. And I did that because, I kind of focused my energy on particularly independent artists, you know, guys who were literally paying out of their own pockets for their albums to record. And you would know, because I know you well enough to know this, that oftentimes that's where the really good music is. The guys
Hey,
who are, dude, I'm telling you, doing their own thing, you know, have their own studio setups and the like, and are just, you know, flourishing as independent artists, kind of thing. So um, coming back to what you're saying, it's important to create platforms like this, platforms that are sustainable, are there in support of, you know, the a sort of greater cause as far as the arts is concerned. You know, there's too much me, myself, and I in this game, my dude, and you would know that. Too
oh,
much, way too much of that. You know,
and
and
it's
what I think industry needs to realize is that it's a cliche thing to say, but at the end of the day, you know, the stronger we are as a unit, the better the state of the industry will be, you know. But for as long as we sit in our own corners and just worry about ourselves only, it's I mean, we can't rely on any government you know, departments to come to our aid. You just got to do, we've got to do things for ourselves and everyone around us as well.